set.
Yeah, I should turn this like this.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting, our regular meeting, Wednesday, January 24th, 2018. This meeting is being shown live as we speak on Channel 9. It'll be recorded and shown throughout the week. If anybody's going to record this, or you just need to let me know. Okay. With that, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Mr. Chairman, while we're all standing, I would like to request a moment of silence for David Cordero and Joan Costa, who passed away during the last week. Thank you.
And, condolences go out to the families of individuals. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any public input? No?
I'll make it brief. Thomas Berkwin, 3076 Hunters Hill Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank the couple members of the board that gave me some reading material that I went through. And
a little light reading.
I did find something to, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to talk a long time about it, but I found an interesting thing about volunteers. And an example, the town of Concord has 250 volunteers for all their boards and commissions. And they wrote a nice article about how it helps them get things done because people are busy. And at the end, it talked about how it was nice that they actually thanked the people that took the time to volunteer, and they were very grateful. And it was almost like, they were almost in a way trying to say they couldn't really run it without them. They really they relied on, people to help. It just kind of struck me, it was interesting. So what they came up with, they worked with the town administrator and the board, or the board and the town administrator, either way. It's kind of interchangeable. And every year they do a little workshop, like a half a day, and it's voluntary, you'd have to get somebody to take the time or whatever. And they they give them a little packet of information and train them on the ins and outs of it. Like update them on policies, like what they might be expected to do, educate them on each commission or board. And I just thought it was interesting. And this came out of the Beacon, which I have a nice, once again, thank you for the one pile, pretty good site. So sometimes when you ask us, you know what I mean? But actually, this is actually something good that just came out of the first thing that I read. And I just thought it tied.
Yeah.
And Jack's always talking about.
Well, our town can't function without volunteers. Most of all the boards and committees that we have are all volunteers, and we can't function without it. The other thing I was going to talk about earlier, I might as well talk about it now. I went to last weekend. We had a Mass Municipal Association conference, and one of the things I went to was they called it Citizens Academy. And Mallory and I spoke briefly about it, but we're going to look into that. And it's a process where you get a number of townspeople that want to do it, and have a number of sessions over a period, once a week, over a period of months, to get people up to speed on what goes on. Because a lot of people, it functions, but you don't know the ins and outs of it. So that's something we're going to look into in the future. So, thanks, Bob.
I just thought it was interesting, and it does tie in. The second thing.
Actually, before you go forward, can I just comment on what that workshop probably also includes is sessions from members of the state staff that would provide public records laws, open meeting laws, and conflict of interest law training, because any volunteer for the town on a board is still, must abide by conflict of interest laws, public records laws, and all of that. It's a great idea, and I think beneficial. I've been a part of them before, And I always come back learning something because they're extensive pieces of legislation. So it is something to be looked at.
I think we could get the most bang for our buck, so to speak, even though these are volunteers and
Right.
most of them are not paid, and we appreciate the effort and time that you guys all put in to your volunteerism. But maybe perhaps doing it all together once we have a
Yes.
policies and procedures manual for the town, and then, you know, doing a workshop for the town-specific policies and procedures, and then covering, you know,
Yep.
the state
State
things and the
competition.
federal things.
When I was
that
looking
need to
at
be
it,
compliant
Brad, I
with.
was actually thinking, I mean, Dr. C, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, the tie in the open meeting law, which like we get from Sue.
Yep.
You're gonna come up with your harassment thing, your this thing, that thing, tie it all in. Outstanding. And just one other quick thing. I want to thank the town administrator. I'm not the chair of that committee, but she attended our, she's probably going to talk about it tonight.
I am.
She does.
But let me tell
Stealing
you
my
something.
thunder.
She did a, what was
I
that?
said, you're stealing my thunder. I'm just kidding. Please
Oh, I'm
continue.
sorry.
It's all right. I'm just kidding. Please
For some reason, I
continue.
accidentally did that. to Brett one night. What I wanted to say was, I thought it was a very nice job that
Thank
you
you.
came in and sat with us, and it was, I thought it was outstanding.
Well, thank you.
Good.
I was happy to be there.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, the pre-meeting was good too, you know, before we got rolling. All right, we don't want to go into
So
that.
when you're through with all of those, if you would return them, no rush, there's no rush, there's no rush. But if I find any others, I'll have them available
And
to
I'll
you.
tell you, those little extra things you gave me were really nice. I really appreciate that, the benchmark and that.
Oh, that
That's
is
good
excellent,
stuff.
that's out of UMass Amherst.
Do you have
Donnie,
two
Okay, thank you,
copies
Tom.
now?
Well, no, I got, no, this is some other stuff that, you know, she's into the finance and stuff.
Absolutely.
Good stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Any other? Nothing on the agenda though, right, Tim?
And why would that not be? Because.
Well, but why don't you, if you could wait till, if it's on the agenda, let's wait till. we
Well,
get-
it's simply to have an executive session. Tim Ryan's, 316 Main Street. As a direct abutter to AstraZeneca's property,
Yep.
I certainly do hope that the BOS is going to contact all abutters
Absolutely.
if anything is done with their
Whatever
property.
happens, absolutely.
Because I had other neighbors asking about this
Absolutely.
already. Because I'm sure the town knows that I lived across the street from that facility all my life. It's a hazardous waste site.
Yeah, we
I
know.
really don't think the town would want to get themselves involved with a brownfield site,
We don't and we won't.
okay? And the other issue also is that the earthen dam, I'll refer to it as Muddy Cove Pond. Muddy Cove Pond, I believe that was built in the late 40s, early 50s, and I don't believe there's ever been an inspection done on that, so I don't really know if we want to get involved with getting a bridge in there.
Let me just address that. First of all, anything that we do will come back to the town. The dam has been inspected every 2 years. It's been inspected, that's a requirement. So,
I've
we'll,
never seen that paperwork, I've asked the state, never
Okay.
received that.
Well, it's been done.
It was an open meeting, or I should say, Freedom of Information Act, so.
So
I
we'll
don't know
have-
about that, but-
we'll have more discussion about that at a future selectment meeting.
So let me ask you this, though, if something does come up on the agenda, will there be an opportunity to speak about it in subject?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Tim, I'll just comment also, just like we did with the drainage project, the AstraZeneca project, we gave out information on a periodic basis to let everybody know who's paying for what, the donation from them, everything that has happened across the street, how to handle anything hazardous. So, you know,
And I just want to,
just open and plain information for everybody.
I want to assure you that this board values transparency, and it will all be transparent. Anything that we do is transparent. You know, but there's times when you have to go to executive session before you get to that
Oh,
point.
understood.
So, we will not hold
It's a
anything
legal
back.
issue.
We'll never hold anything back, we'll never hold, do anything behind your back, so everybody needs to
Oh,
be
no, I
sure.
never, no, that was never.
I know, I just want to be clear, because that, we value that very much, so.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that, and
Okay.
my neighbors also do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhines.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on. Geez, we're almost right on time, too.
It's so
We have the discussion on the, from the Historical Commission concerning the Nat Crane House. And who's going to make the presentation or discuss it?
I'm Jim DeGaruda, I'm Chairman of the Commission. We we aren't going to be able to move forward, and in talking with the CPC chairman, until we have a better understanding of what you folks would want to do with the Nat Crane House, which, as far as we have reached, is to submit a application for eligibility to the CPC. I don't know if you've seen that. Okay, so basically in our discussions, the most feasible thing we could approach with this house that's across the street from the Aggie School, and which is going to be destroyed so that, or that piece of property is going to be, have that house not there so that their expansion can take place. They've offered to give the town of Dayton the house for free. So, in order to attempt to preserve that home, which has a real historic aspect to it. And I don't know how much you want me to say about the
Well, I think we
history
have
of
some
that
questions.
house.
What I want to, we want to hear more, and we also have some questions, but Myrna can't be here tonight, Myrna Santos, who's the town historian. She sent an email, and I'd like to just read it, just so we can have her input. Dear Selectmen, I regret that I will be unable to attend our meeting this evening when the Nathaniel Crane House is discussed. I wish to be on the record as being in favor of the town of Dayton accepting that building from the Bristol County Agricultural High School. It is a valuable and finely built example of old shipbuilding techniques, and I believe the only old home in town using the hip and roof supported completely by its central chimney. It's in very good condition today. It was built for and occupied by a noted sea captain whose main claim to fame came from his association with and the saving of Stout George Briggs, okay, during his famous adventure in Cuba. This is a precious piece of Dayton heritage, and many, if not most Daytonians, or Dayton's historic pieces are now gone forever. The house, if properly resituated within Dayton, has great potential as a historic building and much more, perhaps with a museum component, an educational tool, the potential to be incorporated into an overall recreational area as well for the future generations to enjoy. My feeling is that this is a matter for the townspeople to finally decide, as our community facilities are limited and dwindling. It's my sincere hope that the Selectmen will decide to accept the offer of the Nathaniel Crane House by Bristol County Agro High School trustees with the acceptance then to be placed before the taxpayers for a final decision. We do have Dayton's demolition control bylaw, which gives us the option of finding an entity to remove the building should the town decide not to keep it. In any case, that house certainly should not face destruction, and there are options for its salvation. I hope the town of Dayton itself will provide the final outcome by saving the house for town purposes. And very sincerely, Myrna Santos, town historian. So I just want to get that out there.
Right, I'm glad you did.
I think a question that we all would have is what would you use it for?
Yeah.
And because obviously there's a cost to moving it, and then there's a cost to maintaining it, and what purpose would you think about using it for?
Well, there have been suggestions that it could be a museum, and I believe they're very plausible suggestions. There are artifacts, Native American artifacts that that universities have possession of right now, but that I believe belong to this town. There's recreational and historical programming for the area that we've identified as a good candidate for this house, and those could be very strongly supported by it being there. And
Can I ask where that is?
yeah, it's a piece of town property behind Giorgio's
Yep.
and Somerset Ave, and back there toward the railroad bridge. So that property, I believe I'm correct, it is contiguous with the Sweets Knoll property. Right. So that would really bring a very strong recreational and cultural benefit that it could easily tie in. And of course, there's wooded land there that would be just beautiful for trails on that river, where the highway superintendent has told us about some rock, like a rock weir in there that is pretty reasonably assumed to have been a Native American construction. You know, there's more that can be done beyond that in time if you're able to actually support it by itself. Otherwise, it's not viable. It has to be sustainable. But if that sustainability is expanded over time, there are things like a commercial kitchen that could be brought in there, like the town of Dartmouth has done in the Grange, where people rent it for a period of time and they put up their jams and jellies or bake their pies to sell them. You know. That's one of other types of things that could come in as time, as success allowed, you know.
Any questions?
I just had one question.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys are doing your work. And I really, just stay out until you have a question or you need my input. So my question for you, in sheer ignorance, is you mentioned a museum. How would another museum be different than the one that the town already has? And I understand it's through the Historical Society. But how would that be different? Because they're already putting artifacts in the Winslow Davis Museum.
You're right. Well, that's a good point. If it were to focus on Native American artifacts, perhaps, and I mean, I've been told Sweets Knoll is packed with the area is packed with artifacts. So that would be the and it's kind of in a way it's kind of a project, we've got a sea captain with unique architecture and a Dighton icon, historical icon, and Native American artifacts and resources. So it's not the perfect project, and it's not an inexpensive project. The estimate that I heard from Mr. Ferry was in the neighborhood of $50,000 to move it, and building commissioner and Mr. Ferry told our commission that it was in the neighborhood of $200,000 for the whole thing, to put a septic. There's a foundation there above the floodplain already, but to prepare that and whatever other site work, but all those things.
So that,
Have you thought about, how would you maintain it, or how would you, who would pay for the yearly maintenance of it, or,
Right.
all that kind of thing? Would you generate revenue, I guess?
That's the only option we've come up with, is to generate revenue.
Any questions?
It's above, the piece of land you're talking about is above the floodplain?
Not entirely, I don't think.
Would this house have to be built up, like houses along the river? New construction?
It wouldn't have to be elevated, no.
Okay.
The area that the house would be located is outside of the floodplain, but the property itself does fall within the floodplain, just at a different location. But the structure site and septic site, all of the build-out site is above the floodplain.
I guess what my concern is that when we toured the property last year, it was left that before the town could make a decision, by the town, I mean the Board of Selectmen, the Historical Commission would look at the whole thing and come in with proposals. Now, you came in tonight and asked us what we want to do with it. I don't have any information to make the decision.
Oh, I don't.
If a property can be saved and there is a use for it, it's worth considering. Right now, I don't know what the plan is. All we know is it has to go one way or another. My other thought is, if the town of Dayton says no, either we can't afford it, or even at town meeting, the residents say no, the county has the option to sell it for $1, and it can be physically moved, just like the Wardell House was moved. Now, it's not located in Dayton, but that entire Wardell property house was saved.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where we're building a police station now. It's another option.
Yes, yes, I know.
And the fact that we have a historical museum in town that a lot of people put money into and work to acquire it in the beginning, and now the town has, through CPC, has put money into it, and we have a viable society operating it. Without a real plan,
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Like,
what we can do.
We don't have any prospective tenant or anything like that.
so I think, I would like to take
Can I
that
just comment
under,
on that? I don't think she was saying, you have to have every single one of your ducks in a row. I think she just means a direction and a goal. We have this issue in town, and this building being moved to this, I don't mean to speak for you, Selectman Goulart,
No, that's all right.
will fit this need. I think that's more, it's conceptual.
Sure.
so I think what I would like to propose is we take this under advisement, and we ask you to come back at another selectmen meetings with a little more definitive plan about, what you would do with it, and how it would be maintained, and that, a little more detail. Because I would agree with Selectman Goulart, we're not in a position at this point to say we agree or we don't agree, because it's not firm enough as to something we could say, yeah, we think that's viable. So,
But what I
Well,
will also,
we haven't been unanimous on our board about it either.
That's
So we're trying to get that
Yeah,
developed up past to the CPC, and then.
well, I guess we need that, is before we can take a vote to say, yeah, we support it. So I would.
May I just
Sure,
ask
sorry.
one question? I believe you had told me previous to this meeting that Nathaniel Crane had some ties to, was it Brown University? Or was that
Oh,
just
no,
the
that's
artifacts?
With artifacts.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Are they related to the home at all? I was just hoping that there could be some relationship with the university, but I guess not.
And I wanted to clarify something in Myrna's letter, is that finding someone else to disassemble and reassemble it is not something we do if everything else fails.
No, I'm not saying you. That's an option to the
there
No,
county.
I'm just clarifying that her language, that our demolition delay bylaw isn't the only thing that makes us able to look for other options.
No, I realize that.
And that's a viable option if nothing else works.
Right.
Absolutely.
is this, I'm sorry.
So-
Is is the Nathaniel Crane House, is that registered with the Massachusetts Historical Society? Is there anything the state?
I just wrote that.
Yes, it is.
It is. Is there anything the state can,
It's on the map.
It's on
is there
Macris,
anything the
yeah.
state can do to assist the town with that property as it is registered?
I'm sorry, let me just finish.
No problem.
Yeah, there are some resources they could tap into. You can talk to Secretary Galvin's office, you go to Mass Historical Commission themselves, is the Massachusetts Preservation Society. They have ones that are available, that are out there, for this purpose. But right now, this is just a discussion phase.
Correct.
I just want to speak briefly on what we've done now as the CPC. We have accepted an application for eligibility. We've taken it under advisement. And the reason why we've done that is because we know that the BOS has all the power and authority to either accept a donation or buy property outright to purchase for the town of Dayton. So that's what we've done on our end of things. But right now, I'm sitting here thinking of math in my mind that we're already in January. You're talking February, March, April, May, mid-May, warrant articles have to be due at town meeting. So just a hypothetical, if this were to go through right now, is that since you're dealing with a new public entity, you must go by the prevailing wage law. So then you're talking about filing for requests for proposals to
I think-
improve this building and such, so.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I think,
I just want to throw it out there so the.
Well, I think-
but I think
and I-
that's the kind of questions that you need to research. Is there
Well,
other money
you know-
available to?
Yes, yes,
And
that is,
that
but
was
part of
my-
what he's raising up too brings the point that,
Right.
you know, it's late winter, spring 2019,
Yeah,
that it all has to be done by.
right.
I would just, I would encourage you, and you know, if anybody has any questions, you want my input. What I don't want to do is try to give your commission an idea like, yeah, we should do this. I don't want to be involved at all in the plans. I just want to be kept abreast. I will support you, you know, as much as I possibly can, and I would love to see you look into if there's any state funds, as it is registered with the Massachusetts Historical Register, so it's possible. So I would love to see you look into that.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we take this article under advisement and ask the Historical Commission to notify us when they have a viable plan for the property, so we can get you on the agenda and discuss this again. And the viable plan will include the kinds of things that Mr. Rhines was talking about as far as funding or potential or historical designation, anything like that, okay? No, doesn't have to be detail, but at least you'll have facts.
No, and forgive me for not raising those. I mean,
Yeah.
the two that he mentioned, I know about, and, yeah, they apply to the Segregated School too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we'll take that under advisement. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Historical Commission for your hard work.
Okay. Our town administrator's report is next.
Okay. So as you're aware, we all attended the Massachusetts Municipal Association's annual meeting. There were a variety of workshops, and all of us, I think, together got a good cross-section of training and what we need to know. One of my big things, I went to a cybersecurity workshop in the afternoon. My first one was a bit of a bust, but my second one was cybersecurity. And wouldn't you know it, on Monday, there was a phishing scam. Somebody tried to phish one of our employees. So for our employees, for the public out there, be aware, be alert, read carefully. They're getting a little bit tricky. This individual made up an email address masked as myself and requested somebody to wire them money, but made it seem like it was a directive. So just be aware and be wary. That was my big takeaway from that. During the trade show, I visited the Mass Development booth, and this ties into my next bit of my report, but I did share, it's a technical assistance plan. Mass Development has this program where they partner with the town. Mass Development funds most of it. The town ends up paying for expenses, but they develop a technical assistance plan for things like building up your industrial corridors, helping businesses find the best, or property owners find the best use for business to go there. I did share this information at the Industrial and Development Commission meeting, and I think it's very valuable for them. They're not there yet to do that, but as part of the meeting, and I hope you don't mind, I'm going to do double duty here for my update, but we had a great meeting. It was an honor to be their guest. I really enjoyed meeting with them. We talked about surveying the town, the entire town. Not everybody's on Facebook, so we want to make sure that everybody's having the opportunity to provide input about, Ms. Daly is here today. I haven't forgot you about the ice cream. It's really stuck with me.
Ice cream? That sounds
An
good.
ice cream shop right in town. So we are going to, or the Industrial Development Commission, and I offered my support, send out a survey to the town, asking them various questions. They're going to make up these questions, top, 3 to 4 questions max. We don't want it to take too much time. We want people to participate, so please, when you get it in the coming months, return it. We want to hear what you have to say. The last thing I want to be responsible for is bringing in a business that nobody wants. So we want to hear what you have to say. So that's step one that we'll be taking care of, and then the technical assistance plan can step in there. We can work with Mass Development there. The other thing that also came out of the MMA meeting, that booklet, we get a booklet as part of this meeting, and it has honorees for certain things that they've done over the years, and one of the items that a town was recognized for, I believe was Arlington, was this vacant property registry. They did it by bylaw and would require businesses or landowners to register their vacant properties, partner with the town to try to get those filled. So that's something that I shared with them, and I'd like to
And it was
continue
not
working
only
with
just
them.
registered with the town, it was also with the state.
the state as
planning-
well.
The planning office with the state,
Right.
so they're getting extra visibility. I just wanted to say, I think that's fantastic, the survey. The reason I think that's fantastic is for those who are not aware, there is an MGL that defines what the duties and authority of the Development and Industrial Commission are. They are primarily a marketing and recruitment commission. So I think having a survey where we really get a large swath of responses from various Dayton residents to see what it is that they want to see come to town. And as you know, if everybody's on board and they all agree that, yes, we want an ice cream shop, it happens a lot easier that way. So
So you
I
can
think that's
open it?
fantastic.
Putting you on the spot there.
No, I'm kidding.
And then do any of you want to talk about your MMA
I
experience
just
while
wanted
we're
to,
here?
I just wanted to say one thing. I went to the marijuana law session, and I learned that the Cannabis Control Commission will begin accepting applications for adult use marijuana starting April 1st, 2018. The first license will be granted no earlier than June 1st, 2018. So I'd like to see perhaps the Board of Selectmen, members of the Board of Health who are present tonight, Planning Board, Zoning Board, Police Chief, Fire Chief. I'd love to see us all get together to discuss what our approach is going to be, whatever direction going forward with that, because it's going to happen no matter what. So we at least need to be prepared in any direction for that.
Agreed.
That's it.
We have a member of the Board of, John Byers, Board of Health. We have a member that has already indicated willingness to serve because he's dealing with it now in Anson. So his knowledge to date will be helpful, I think.
Thank you.
From the Board of Health
Marcia
perspective.
Venice has sent out an email also. The Massachusetts Association of Boards of Health is planning a workshop to deal with this. And they've raised a number of issues, and they have stated in the review, did you get the email by any chance?
I forwarded that to Roz to give to Mr., to the whole health
Because
department.
the board has raised issues about the current regulations that violate existing state laws. So I'm just making this, it'll come out again and they'll let us know. That was what we went to when it was the flu thing that came out in the meeting we went to, the training session.
I remember
So
that.
anyhow,
DPH.
that's coming out also.
A two-page document of the adult use law.
Yep.
That-
Which aren't final, by the
Two
way.
pages.
And I want to make clear, though, we're not endorsing
No,
or a
not one way or the other. We have,
recreational marijuana.
we have not had
Lot
that
of- lot of work
conversation
needs
yet.
to be
What I will say is, though, in 2016, 53.7% of this Dayton's population did vote in favor of question 4, so that's just public record. However, we have not had a conversation, which is why I proposed that this evening, just to make, get us all on the same page and we're, in the right direction moving
And we
forward.
need to get the latest information.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
there is a public hearing I'm going to attend. It's February 6th in Dartmouth.
Oh, you got the
about
public
this.
hearing
Yes.
I'm going to that too.
Oh,
It's
good.
Mass School of Law.
Yes. If nobody else has any other updates, I have something that's not on the agenda today. It did come in, not on the agenda because it did come in today. Back, a brief history on this, back in November, you had extended the resignation of the planning board office manager. That date was today. She had discussed extending that once again. We did not receive that communication.
Or a recommendation,
Or
or a vote, or a
anything,
recommendation from the
the
planning board.
planning board. Our deadline, as everyone's now aware, just to reiterate, is Mondays at 12:30. The employee was reminded a couple of times, it did not come. She has, so effectively, she's no longer employed by the town of Dayton. Today was her last day. The planning board chairman sent a communication about hiring her as a consultant to the board, the planning board, and the town accountant has come back with some other literature that is not, that cannot be. So this all happened and transpired this afternoon, very late. I just wanted you to be aware, and we'll be working out what's going on, just to get you a definitive answer. So
When you say
He also-
working out, you really mean, the
notifying
yeah,
the
and-
planning board what they legally can and cannot do with this.
Because the other thing is, he says that he believes Heidi would be happy to remain employed by the
Right.
town.
So I asked her specifically, because to this it was unclear, and she said employed as a consultant for the end of the fiscal year. And again, the town accountant has shared information, again, it was late this afternoon, that it cannot
Okay.
happen. So just an update, so you're all aware, but we'll.
So what do we do tomorrow?
They notify, tomorrow, there's just no one there
any
tomorrow,
way-
but they are, oh, I'm sorry. They had posted for this position a while ago. They have the resumes from the people. They've decided who they are going to interview, and they've set them up for next week.
Oh, okay,
So
I didn't even
that's-
know that,
yeah,
okay.
that's the latest and greatest, I guess, is all
So
I
can
know.
we extend her employment for another?
Not based on the emails I read.
I
from
mean,
the
you,
town.
Why
you,
not?
I
Well,
believe you can make this
I think the
decision.
proper, what should have occurred, and even though
Yeah.
it's late,
Right.
she should send written notification if she hasn't done it to the planning board, and the planning board should be making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for next week's meeting about whether or not they want to extend her employment as an employee through the end of June. If she doesn't wish to do that, I saw that email and I'm thinking, you can't do this. So she has an option.
Right.
And if the planning board hasn't been notified by her in writing yet on whether or not she wants to
Did we
extend.
receive notification
No.
that we voted our last meeting to extend that to the end of June?
As of today, I
Not at
didn't have a
all.
letter, and she
Get
told me it
anything?
wasn't signed.
And
Today.
I speak to her all the time, and I never heard
I
that.
saw her today, she should have, could have said
Was it
sign
signed?
this.
Yeah. I asked her.
So anyhow,
'cause-
So the situation is, I think that as of today, she's no longer an employee of the
but
town.
if you notify us, we can do this, it can be an agenda item next
For
week.
next
If you
week.
let them know by tomorrow, what the planning board, if you can get in touch with her, what does she want to do? Does she want to stay as an employee and extend the resignation or move it up to June? If not, then you've got to continue with your
Yeah, we
interviews.
voted, I said we took a formal vote at our last meeting to extend the resignation till June.
But did she give you a notification asking you to do that? That's what I'm saying.
Well, she's our office manager, she's there.
But
We
you
didn't
did-
receive it in writing, but we're on.
I think she must have been at that meeting requesting to,
Correct.
okay, so I think if you can just give Mallory something to indicate that,
Documentation.
we can put it on the agenda for next week.
Can I ask a question? How can that happen if she's already given the resignation?
That's my thing, is she, it, correct, so you're not extending, it's already ended, that's my concern.
Next week, say I want to be.
We could have extended it tonight.
Yes.
So what if can we grant a?
Does that make
leave-
sense, Town Administrator Ernstine? I understand what all my colleagues have said, but if the last day is today, there's nothing to extend. I mean, forgive me if I'm missing something. There's no extension, it has ended.
In my opinion.
We'd have to hire, you have to hire,
The employee
rehire
was
somebody.
notified, she knew the state was coming, wasn't a surprise. She was notified and reminded a couple of times. Our policy that just went into effect recently was shared to everyone.
Absolutely.
So I even in discussions today, and it wasn't signed. So, I mean, I do think she's a valuable person to do work here in town, and I don't want to see her get hurt, but
I
we
just
didn't
wanna
have
do it
anything to put
properly.
on the agenda. You
Can
have
we-
to vote to be able to extend it.
Can we grant
I was in
a,
the office today, we had a
So-
discussion.
I mean-
Nobody asked me to sign anything.
can we grant a leave of absence for a week?
If you'd
Yeah,
like
I
to.
don't
She
know if
hasn't
that-
applied for one. I'm going to back up.
Just trying to
Yeah,
get us
right.
to where we need to be, so we don't lose
Okay.
a valuable employee.
I think
and
we
maybe
need,
keep
I
carrying
think we
on.
need to look at where we are. We acted on a resignation,
Right.
and then it was, she requested that it be extended into January, which is today's deadline. Notification was given about when you have to get things in to put them on the selectmen's
Correct.
agenda. The fact that the planning board voted to extend it, but they didn't get a written request from her. She is an employee of the town of Dayton. We acted on the last request. She is obligated to notify her, I'll call it immediate supervisor and/or the board that employs her, what her wishes are. And they should have been, that should have been put in writing before today's deadline, so we could do this tonight. I still think that under the circumstances, the board voted, but without something in writing from her, and then us getting something saying, I'll work as a consultant, you can't do that.
So the bottom line, she can't work as a consultant. I think I'm trying to get to a place where the planning board can still function with this person because they obviously, I think, the planning board wants to retain her for a period of time. So I'm looking at
We want somebody there. Had I known the letter wasn't going to get submitted, we could have been.
I didn't even know there was a letter.
So the question is, what can we do in order to at least get her, if not appointed today, but
I
to
just
give
want
more
to
time to get it
piggyback
done.
off this, and I'm not talking about any particular employee or the person who fills this position. There needs to be someone down there when a business comes into town,
Sure.
which I hope there are still businesses that want to come to town. There needs to be someone there who can answer the calls, answer the questions, be the face that's greeting them when they come through the door. I feel like, is the door even going to be open now? That's my concern.
I
That's
have
why
that
we have the
concern too,
position
but
as an
she's,
option.
right, but she's an employee of the town, knowing that this was her technically last day. The planning board, with all due respect, did take action, but knew this was coming. There are interviews scheduled, it's just
I
gonna be a
don't-
few days before a body's in there. I mean,
I don't
I
think-
understand, and this seems silly because it's a paperwork thing, but it makes me think, does she want to work for Dayton anymore?
Well, see,
I mean,
that-
if,
So I'm looking, I guess what I'm
So it's
looking
her-
for is a way to move this forward without losing the employee, if the employee wants to stay and the planning board wants to keep her for a period of time.
I have
So-
had a conversation. She does want to
Okay, so
stay.
let me just finish. So the question is, what can we do tonight she's not an employee as of tomorrow, there's no question about that.
But she's
Because-
an employee right now still.
Okay, but, so I'm looking, can we grant her, at the request of the planning board, a leave of absence for a week until she gets it together and requests
we
something
can
from...
take action on the 31st, do you mean?
Yeah. And it to
I
whether-
believe that is
whether-
in your purview.
Whether
as
we
the
put her
board
on
of
board, I
She
mean,
hasn't
she did-
applied for a leave of absence. She's offered to be a consultant.
I know, but
What's in there?
but what's the solution here? What's the solution?
The solution, first
The
of
burden was
all,
on her. The burden was on her.
I know it
I
was.
agree. No, I totally
Listen,
agree.
I don't disagree at all.
okay,
So
Well, we're
that
trying-
tells us something about.
all right.
We're trying, I know, we're trying
So,
to keep the planning office
If I were to
running.
call the planning board number right now, would I get an opportunity to leave a message?
Yes.
So there's
Leave
a
message,
recording.
yes.
Before,
Called 2 days ago.
since this isn't resolved and we can't do anything tonight, do members, or does somebody from the planning board, the actual elected members, if she were out sick or on vacation, does anyone on the board go in and pick up those voicemails and respond to them while the person is on vacation or sick leave?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, so what we're talking about is less than a
I
week.
say no, I don't. Peter may, the chair.
So what is the point of your
So,
question?
my point is, there will be, if there are messages coming in and left on voicemail, somebody needs to pick them up until you get the situation resolved, so that a person calling in can get an answer.
I think that's understood. I mean, but the question is, what do we do tonight so that we don't,
My,
We're not
I
able to
don't have
act on the
anything in
planning
writing
board's
from the
vote?
employee that, I don't have anything from the planning board. We don't have anything from the planning board because it didn't get signed potentially and it didn't make its way upstairs. Regardless of it being on the, in time on our deadline or whatever. We still don't have anything. She, I guess, indicated to you that she was still interested in working. She told me she was only interested in staying as a consultant.
You
I have
spoke
a-
to her more recently than I did, so that
So
was.
I have indication from the town accountant saying that is not
That's right.
possible.
Yep.
Fine, I believe my town accountant.
Correct.
She was told she needs to, she had the opportunity today. I'm a little bit in agreement with Mr. Pacheco about her having the burden.
Absolutely.
And again, it wasn't like the stay was a surprise.
I'm
I
not
agree.
worried about, I'm worried about the planning board and our ability to function down there. I'm literally, I worry about everybody. I love everybody. But what I mean is, my concern is the department being able to continue to function as if it didn't miss a beat. That's my concern.
And I think if-
my concern is we need to keep the department going, and how do we get that done? And I agree with 100%, the burden was on her, she didn't follow through. But we need to be able to keep the planning office open and functioning, without losing employee. I mean,
I think, as I just mentioned, the Selectmen Gulag, nobody fills in that I know of.
right.
While she's on vacation or out. I think whatever decision that's made, if it's to not extend, then I would hope that the chair, and I know I will, I'll go in there and check messages and do what I can do. And I would expect that the chair, Peter Benby, would also do the same.
You
So
said,
it will function temporarily.
excuse me, you said you have applications?
Until you hire a new person, you mean?
Yeah, until we hire a new
You've
person.
received applications?
We have
You
4.
have- All right. If the person were on vacation for the next 2 weeks, and you and other members of the planning board just checked the voicemail and responded accordingly, okay, do you think you could have somebody selected within 2 weeks?
I would say so. There is one person that is relatively qualified. We had 17 initially, and it was narrowed down to 4.
That's a lot. That's good.
And, but there is one that I think would fit in pretty much immediately.
I'm just,
Those are next week? The interviews are next week, right?
Meeting next week,
Yeah, okay.
Get his email, John.
I'm sorry.
Jim,
I just wanted to say that
who you are?
Jim Agnew, Building Commissioner, Town of Dayton. We're a small town. We have limited employees and resources. And whenever something like this comes up, no matter which department it is, we all pull together to make sure the taxpayer and the developer are serviced. So I think everybody will step up to the plate. Your concerns are legitimate, but I think we have a board, we have other departments in this town that won't turn their backs on anybody who walks through the door. So it'll be business as usual until we get through this.
I appreciate that.
I think if a sign could be posted also on the planning board door, to, whether it's to go down to your office and say to Nancy, I'm here because I want to do such and such, that the person can be directed to the appropriate person, and if they're going to be checking voicemails to make sure that they're handling this, as I said, if it's a 2-week vacation, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And if we can get this done in 2 weeks without, a major disaster, it would be really good. I will tell you this, everything she was doing for the stormwater, because we had a meeting, it's on my desk. It was all there today. And when I saw it, and then I saw the email, I thought, she's not coming back.
I think something else should be explored where the planning board does have this vote to extend the,
Right.
just to, if you don't, can you reach out and find out what the status of that vote would be? And if it would need to be changed, or? You voted, the planning board voted to extend her resignation to June 30th. So, not as a consultant though, as the office manager.
Correct.
So, I guess my question is, what changed in a handful of days?
Did she ask you to be a consultant?
Christina?
She couldn't become a consultant. That's what's changed.
The only time I heard of a consultant was when I got this email tonight.
I
I
mean,
had
the
never
board-
heard of that word being used
The planning
until
board
tonight.
voted to
But
extend her
town planner.
resignation. No, the planning board voted to extend her resignation to June 30th as office manager. So that's what I'm asking, what changed? Like, why didn't it make it upstairs? Why doesn't, that's my
I
question,
certainly could have signed it today.
but,
I guess my concern is, I don't want to get hung up on a technicality
Right.
and leave the planning board short. That's my concern.
I don't think they're going to be short.
Well, but-
You're right.
Okay, if that's the case then, but again, I don't want
We'll
to,
be fine, but Jim,
I mean, do we, well, the other thing,
Commissioner Agia stated,
I know everybody will pull
I
together,
think
but,
we'll work together and get it done.
and we have,
okay, well, I apologize, because that
no,
was
no,
not on the
it's
agenda,
good,
but.
it's a good discussion. If the planning board is okay with it, that her resignation is up today, and you can get through it, then I think we have to accept that, because.
Is this not considered a recommendation? Read the first
It is,
sentence. I
it
mean,
is.
it literally says, we voted to recommend that she remain in her current positions until the end of the current fiscal year. How is that not a recommendation?
She did not
She didn't-
agree to be a office manager. She agreed to be a consultant when I verified with her. I got this at 1:48 PM, and
So let's play devil.
she
so
didn't agree to, that's not what she's agreeing to.
But she
And I
didn't
don't have
know,
anything in
but
writing
did she
from her.
not, she probably didn't know at that point that she could not be a consultant legally.
That's true.
And so,
That is true,
So-
I believe.
I'm trying to find a way through this.
I
For
think
a
we've
short
got
period
the
of
way
time.
through it.
Well, I know, but I don't know
We've
that
got
that's...
applicants, we've got people saying there won't be a drop in service, there will be people who cover it. We are not talking about a brand-new person who doesn't know how things operate in this town. She's actually resigned once and then took the action to have it extended, and it got approved. Common sense says, if you want it approved again, you've got to submit it in writing and say, you know what, I'd like to stay till June the 30th. That's what you do. Whether or not she knows that the consultant thing is not legal is not relevant. We're talking about the job she has held, and she's a long-term employee. It's clear, and the board is saying, we've got 4 applicants out of 17, so they've been working on this. It's not like we're starting from scratch,
That's not what
and
the
we've
board...
got the coverage.
But that's not what the board is saying. At the last planning board meeting, this is from Peter Bendy, we voted to recommend that Heidi Bach remain in her current position until the end of the fiscal year.
Where is her written request to extend it?
I'm saying that the board has made that recommendation.
You can't do it if the person who is actually taking the action
I'm
that
looking
says
for-
they are returning, I'm resigning as of the 24th, please extend it till then.
Did the planning
You
board get
can't
a written
extend the employment
recommendation?
of someone who doesn't want to be here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak while you were speaking. Did the planning board receive a written request to have her planning board office manager
Well, I
position?
thought the written request was gonna come up here.
Don't have it.
I'm saying before you voted at your last meeting, was there a written request for that?
She had requested, and I think there was something in writing extending it for another month.
Because it came before this board, yes, you're right.
That was already what we acted on.
That was prior to this.
And so we suggested, well, nothing's really gonna happen until the funding occurs, so why don't you extend it till the end of June? And she said, okay, and that's when we voted, to extend it till the end of June, but there wasn't a new written request from her, no.
But is it the wish of the planning board to keep the current employee in their position, or to go out and select a new one?
As an experienced
I don't mean to
person,
put
it's
you on the
always
spot, but
nice
we need to
the
know.
person that's in the position,
That's-
but I don't care who works.
That's the recommendation of the chairman of the planning board, that she stay in her current position. I'm just trying to find a way through here without getting hung up on a technicality, because
It's
she
not a
did-
technicality if the person, the employee says,
My goal is to-
please extend my resignation to the 24th of January. And we said, okay, and we said, okay. It is the obligation of the employee. A board can't say to the person who says, I resigned, no, you're staying until June the 30th.
Well, what Mr. Byers just said, clearly, it appears to me that
We made that recommendation.
this employee...
Because you knew she wanted to stay, correct?
We didn't make it out of the...
Well, I can't get into her mind.
No,
I know.
but you clearly had a conversation with her.
You wouldn't
She
have had a vote if she didn't want to
Was she at the meeting? when we
remain,
voted on
right?
it?
I don't know if it was under the impression that she would be a consultant
Well,
or,
well, that's not going to happen. Consultant is out of the question. The question I have is,
I would hope so.
was it the planning board's understanding that she was requesting to stay on past today?
That's what we voted on.
So then it was your...
What did she request?
But let me just finish, Nancy. So the question...
Did she formally request it? No, she was only formally requesting 1 month.
But if she went to you, or she went to the chairman of the planning board and said, I want to stay on, just because she didn't do it in writing, I don't think we want to lose this.
She made the alternative of a consulting job. Jeez.
I understand that, Mr. Aggie, I understand that. You don't need to lecture me on that.
I think we do.
No, it is.
Quite frankly, I think we do.
Well, let's
It
get
is
this,
legitimate, because, forget about the person. Look at everybody in this building. We all take our jobs very seriously. Something as good as a job for this town, or any town, should be taken seriously, and the recommendation or the request should have came in writing.
believe me,
So in the absence of it, I don't think it's your position to actually say, this is the employee who needs to stay in that.
No, but I think
The
what he's
planning-
saying,
the planning-
they never would have taken the vote if they thought
Bingo.
and knew that she didn't want to stay in the
we have a
position. That's
recommendation
classic.
from the
I know,
chairman of the,
common
let me,
sense.
yeah, okay, let me speak.
Okay.
We have a recommendation from the chairman of the planning board to keep her on as an employee. So the fact that she didn't give it, I mean, he didn't make this up. I mean, so,
Okay.
let me, no, look, so whether she wrote it down, or she said to the chairman, or she said to Mr. Pires, I want to stay on, I don't believe, for the good of the town, that we want to get hung up because it wasn't done according to the exact
And
thing.
if there wasn't correspondence that said she's willing to stay as a consultant, then I would agree with you. But being a consultant and being an employee is two different things.
Absolutely.
So, no one wants to lose a valued employee, but we only want an employee who wants to be an employee. And I haven't seen that.
I agree with you. Hold on,
Let me just
say-
note, I have something
you-
to say to Mr. Aguirre. I appreciate your input, but this is really not your issue.
Well, it is, as someone who takes my job very seriously.
But it's an
But that's
issue,
your
it's
job.
it's your job. It's
This
an
is
issue for the
someone
planning
else's
board.
job.
And your input is fine, but the
Thank
issue is with the planning board.
My other thing is,
I
we
wanna
also
point
didn't
out-
receive a
Wait,
letter.
wait, let's get some order here.
But we
I will
also-
recognize people who speak, okay, go ahead.
We also, thank you, how nice of you. We also did not receive a letter that said that she wanted to receive a consultant. We cannot have it both ways here. We didn't get a letter that she wanted to stay on. We all know that. We also didn't get a letter from her directly, if that's the standard here, the benchmark, that says she wants to stay on as a consultant. I never heard that word until tonight, so as far as I'm
Nor did I.
concerned, Ms. Heidi Baki is our planning board office manager who has spoken to the planning board before they took their vote at their last meeting under the assumption that she would like to stay on. Why else would they
May I
have the
see
vote?
that, please?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree with you, okay. I'm sorry, Mr.
Yes, I have a question. Who did she send a letter of resignation to? Was it to the planning board?
Yes. To the planning board.
Send
And
it-
the planning board sends it up to us.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, that's how it goes.
So we wouldn't get it unless, they could be sitting there right now for all we know, and it just never made its way up here. I don't know, I was not here today during the day.
So how did you guys get to extend it then?
It came up. It
That
came
was,
up.
excuse me, she had submitted a resignation.
To the
And
planning
then
board?
to the planning board, they voted on it, it came up here. Now, just so everyone knows, the planning board is obviously their own elected board, but she's a member of the collective bargaining agreement, and that's why the selectmen are involved. So, number one, she put in her letter of resignation to the planning board, they accepted it, it comes up here, the board said, okay. Then she put another letter that requested to extend that
To the planning board?
to the planning board, and then it came up to the Board of Selectmen. They said, okay, that date was actually November 30th. That letter specified she would extend her resignation to today, which is January 24th. Upon prompting, been no other communication. So the last communicate,
Correct.
or anybody.
When I retired, I gave a specific date. Now, they could have voted to extend me for another year. I wasn't going to work another year. I gave a specific date I was leaving, and there was no further communication from me that I wanted to continue working or anything like that. And I think the board is in the same situation here. She's filed the resignation, you extended it for a month or whatever it was. Today's the last day. There's been no further communication to the board.
But there has been, so.
I had dinner
so-
with her last Wednesday, and she told me she wanted to stay. I'm sorry, Heidi.
So-
We had dinner together, and she said she wanted to stay.
Let me just say that she didn't, let me just, say, she didn't give us a written thing, but she said to the planning board, I want to stay. Otherwise, Peter Benavides,
There's been a
Benby,
communication today about
okay.
being a consultant. She wanted to be
And
a
I know,
consultant.
By Chairman Benby, I spoke to her personally.
Okay.
I would take that, as more of a.
We need to
gospel.
move on for a minute. Let me just, read it. Hey, Tim, hold on.
Right, state my name,
Yes.
Chris Pacheco, 1816 I'm watching this and I can't believe it. This would never happen in private industry. She asked to resign, she asked for 1 more month. She's not here tonight speaking to her job. I sit here and I think, I'm a taxpayer. I don't know how well she does her job, but I know somebody else can do that job. How badly does she want this job? It seems like she wants it, she doesn't, she might want to be a consultant, maybe not. She talked to you, maybe I want it. Where is she? It's her job. She's not here fighting for it.
Well, I would just,
And you know what? It's not rocket science. I'm sure she's qualified, I'm sure she's a long-term employee, but you know what? If she left tomorrow, we'd find another
My
one. So, that's
my concern is not so much for the employee, it's what's the best interest of the town.
I understand
In the
that, but
planning
it's
board.
been said that it can be covered
Absolutely.
until there's another
Super
employee.
Town,
State your name.
Super Town, 616 William Street, I just have to
Yeah.
agree, regardless of this employee, I don't know if it's that wrong. Standard operating procedure in the real world, where most of us work, there are policies and procedures that need to be followed.
So it's irrelevant. What should be in place is regardless if anybody in the room got hit by a truck, what is the continuation of operations? Why isn't there something automatically that forwards her phone and that forwards her email in the event that any employee is on any interview? That's what happens with me, and I deal with whether people live or die. There has to be a plan tomorrow if I don't show up. So I think it's as a taxpaying citizen, I don't care about this employee specifically. I care about how this feels like a little absurd that we've spent this amount of time debating who's going to answer the phone at the planning board tomorrow.
We already know that there is sufficient coverage over the next few weeks. We know that there are 4 screened applicants out of 17. That shows you what kind of interest there was in this job. And we've heard Mr. Pius say that the voicemail will be checked, that they can interview the final 4 and come up with a recommendation. Mr. Aguirre has said there will be coverage. I don't see the problem.
So I think we need to take a vote. I mean, there's a request, hey guys, there's a request here from the chairman of the planning board,
It's not on
recommend,
the agenda tonight.
we still have to discuss it.
No, we don't.
It's
It
an
was
emer-
mentioned, it's not an emergency. It was mentioned tonight because it came in late. We can't act on it, it's not on the agenda.
I'm going to request a vote on, a request from the planning board because this employee is in different employments today. We have a request from the chairman of the planning board recommending that she remain in her current position until the end of the fiscal year. So.
No,
we need-
he wants to hire as a consultant.
No, he doesn't. Nancy, okay, that's what he's asking for.
I
We need to
just
take
have
a
to
vote on
advise you
that.
not to vote on this.
Absolutely, it's not on the agenda.
It came up as just a FYI.
She brought it as an FYI.
And you can't vote on it.
Fortunately, we have some people here, planning board, other offices
Okay.
downstairs.
Okay.
I'm going to follow Town Administrator Aaronstein's advice,
I
period.
am
Okay,
going to look
so-
into this more, but we just, obviously, she's not here. You have an excellent point, both of you.
Yeah, I-
So we need to just move on. It's
I-
not on the agenda to Selectman Goulart's point. and
I just want to
need
make one
move on.
point, though. In private industry, there's much more flexibility to deal with something like this.
You don't violate policy and
I-
procedure, with all due respect.
I've been in private industry for a long time, and when you have to make a decision, what's best, you do it. But let's move on. This is incredible amount.
I've worked in public and private, and I can tell you, public
Let's
is a
move on.
lot
Let's move on.
stricter.
Public is, absolutely. Okay. Okay, thank you for everybody's input. I appreciate your input.
Absolutely.
I'm not blowing it off. I think it's a good discussion, and so I appreciate everybody's input. Okay, anything else? Mrs. Aaron, do we-
Sorry, everyone. Is it sweep I would suggest if we can just skip over old business, because
agree.
there are a number of people here
Yep.
tonight, and as riveting as our meetings are,
And I
I'd
haven't
like
gotten
to
through the
just,
policy, I can tell you that.
I know. So we'll just skip that bit and go right to new business, and we'll go back to old business at the end, just so not everyone's waiting.
Why don't we go to the, out of order a little bit, request by WAGs, waiting animals get support to use the Dayton Town Hall property?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Under old business, I haven't gotten through the whole harassment policy
Nor have I.
and the IT grant thing.
Hey, I got through it.
Can we take these under advisement for next week's meeting? If I make that motion?
Well, anti-harassment policy, I'm fine on. IT grant, Mr. Aguirre's here, and we do just have to get moving. I do believe it
Okay,
can wait
so
a
if I
week,
make it,
but
um,
are you
we'll
okay
take-
if it waits?
Is the deadline gonna be okay?
Yes.
Okay, if the
Yes.
deadline's okay, we can
Okay,
wait.
yes, so table them
Okay,
both.
so I'm going to make a motion that we take the anti-harassment policy and the IT grant agenda items under advisement until next Wednesday's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries, thank you. So new business was a little bit out of order, so the WAGs, why don't you come up here, tell us who you are, tell us what you're requesting, and
We can give an hour to animals.
If we could spend 20 minutes on that, we can spend an hour on the. My name is Sue Furtado. I'm at 616 William Street in North Dayton, and I am the founder of WAGs, Waiting Animals Getting Support. It's a new nonprofit filed with the Secretary of State, Massachusetts. 501(c) is pending, but our 1023EZ has been filed. And so we have a series of fundraisers coming up, and one of them is the WAGs Extravaganza, which we're hoping to have behind the town hall.
It would include yard sale, bake sale. We'll be going to the Board of Health to request whatever permission we need for that. Vendor tables, just to make money to help at-risk, abandoned, and abused animals.
And what's the date?
May 12th with a rain date of May 19th.
And I guess one question I was going to call you about, but do you have liability insurance?
We do not at the current time, but I can get that.
Yeah, because we would need a liability insurance with naming the town as an additional insured for that date.
Okay.
Just a question for Karen. Do we know if those dates are available, either or?
That was my question too.
That goes to Parks and Rec.
That's correct.
Okay, so
Mr. Rhines
The
is
date
present.
you would have
I
to,
do not know, I do not have the calendar in front of me.
Okay.
Could you repeat the date again, please?
May 12th.
12th with a rain date of May 19th. They're both Saturdays.
I have one question.
Yeah.
And it's really just because I'm really interested in WAGs, which, by the way, everybody has a Facebook page, so please like the Facebook page to keep up with
Waiting
WAGs.
Animals, find
Shameless
us.
plug.
Yeah, thank you.
You said we are not limited geographically in regards to the animals we support. Does that mean you are rescuing animals in other states across the
At
country?
this, we're in a three-phase process. So our first phase is primarily fundraising to support the boots-on-the-ground rescues. Rescue Dogs Rock, Tracy's Dogs, Susie's Senior Dogs. There's a number of rescues. We'll have a website soon that will explain that. So first year is primarily raising funds to do the boots-on-the-ground rescues. Phase 2 would involve a foster network development, which gets really tricky because it's the Mass Department of Agriculture. It's pulling the dogs from out of state. And the reason for that is because Massachusetts is very progressive in terms of animal welfare, and we don't kill our dogs for space. But Connecticut, New York, and everything down south do kill their animals for space. So we'd be pulling, doing foster care network to adoption. And then phase 3 is programming. So for instance, co-locating animal shelters and residential treatment facilities for adolescents, or in prisons, or I work in the nonprofit sector with kids that are much like these animals, abused, neglected, and abandoned.
are there
So
other animals besides dogs that come under this?
dogs, cats, we are not limited to any type of
Any
animal.
kind of animal?
No, the bylaws and the articles of incorporation were specifically written.
So if you, I'll say, rescue an animal, do you have facilities to keep it, or do you have someplace to put it, to have it adopted out?
We would, that's the foster care network, so we would have foster homes rather than a brick and mortar shelter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my daughter works for a similar organization, and she fostered a dog that we now own.
Right, I'm a failed
See how it
foster
works.
times 9, so yeah. I'm not good at the foster thing, I'm hoping other people will be.
She's not good at it either. believe me.
Does your organization work with MSPCA or Animal Rescue League?
Yes, and also, I attended a 4-day national conference the Humane Society put on. So they connected us with all the Mass folks and the Animal Rescue League up in Boston. And we're willing to collaborate with anybody who's willing to collaborate with us.
So if we have a dog in town and our animal control officer picks the
Stacy?
animal up, could
I've
she?
been her foster 100
I
times
was
over.
gonna say, she would get in touch with you and say.
Send me on speed dial. This was before WAGs. This is when I was
Okay,
just superintendent
okay.
on William Street.
But with WAGs, now, so the animal is temporarily in foster custody, and no one claims the dog. Would WAGs then get involved to try to find
We
a
would
permanent
help to
home?
find an adoptive home, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Where's your headquarters?
My house.
Headquarters.
Good, it's close.
It's really conveniently located, yeah. It's all right there.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Ryan?
Mr. Rhines?
I just have some questions. Will there be animals present on the grounds that day?
No, no, on the, no. This is just, just the humankind. Right, just a fundraiser,
That
yeah.
was like, part of our concern, because you know there was signage there and a lot of our.
I know, I don't even walk
So, we just didn't want to run into that situation where we did have animals that they weren't vaccinated.
Right, and at this point, we actually don't have custody of any foster animals, because phase 1 is really just raising the funds to send to the rescues that do have the facilities. We don't have facilities, we don't even have a foster network yet.
If I could speak with you before you leave, or just get your contact information?
Absolutely.
I'll get with you
That
about
would be
dates and
terrific.
things, so.
That would be great.
So if you get the date confirmed with Mr. Rhines, dates,
Yeah.
then just send your request back to the board for use of the
Okay.
field. Now, the other thing you need to know is, with your event out there, if there is food in any form, anything that's consumable, candy, drinks, any kind of food, permits are required from the Board of Health.
Right.
So, and those permits, if you are not preparing the food, but you've got vendors, they all have to have permits from the Board of Health, unless they already have an annual permit from the town of Dayton. But that's very important, that you make sure they get permits.
This is a,
So a question, so if there's a number of us, just board members of WAGs, that are doing bake sales, do each of us individually need to have
Bake sales
it?
are different,
Bake sales are different.
There's
Oh,
different
yeah, no,
rules
we're
for
not gonna
bake
have, we're not
sales.
gonna have like food trucks or those kind of vendors.
Or somebody,
Right.
the safest thing, with any food, you should talk to the Board of Health, just to
Right.
make sure you're safe.
Board of Health.
yes,
Is somebody here from the Board of
the
Health?
chairman is sitting there.
Mr. Pires.
Yeah.
Mr. Pius is the
Okay.
chairman.
I have a question actually for my colleagues. When we go to act on this, when they get the dates confirmed with Chairman Rhines of the Parks and Recreation Commission, is our vote going to be contingent upon approval of the Board of Health for the bake sale, or can we?
No. If the date is open and you get your insurance,
Right.
Make it contingent on that
okay,
date
you
being
can
open.
make the request for the date. And then anything relative to food, they have a printed sheet that will tell you. Bake sales are handed differently and it's all spelled out,
Right.
okay?
It's
And-
online, that sheet?
I think our next meeting is February 8th. If
Okay.
you want to get on our agenda, you can tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, I know we put it in writing back when the Aggie School was having an event. So it says if you're having food, if it's a bake sale, it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay.
Yeah, just deal with the Board of Health on that. So we have the request here that I think we can vote to approve contingent upon the dates.
Just
Okay.
call the Board of Health office and get yourself on the next meeting. I believe it's the 8th,
Will do.
Okay, want to make the,
6695182.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the board approve the request of WAGs, Waiting Animals Get Support, for use of the field behind Town Hall on May 12th with a rain date of May 19th, contingent on the date being available and confirmed by the Parks and Recreation Department, and proof of liability insurance, naming the town as an also insured.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You good to go?
Thank you. One more shameless plug. We have a wine, beer, and liquor tasting at DeBuca's Liquors.
That's not for the animals, right?
Right, no, but the money will go to the animals. But I was wondering, is there any place in Town Hall where a flyer could be posted for that
We put-
event?
You just
Flyers
have
in
to
the
check with
vestibule.
the town clerk, and then, yeah,
Town clerk.
she'll let you know where.
Not on the official posting boards, but we do put them up out there.
Okay,
But I go to town clerk first.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're
thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
New Year's resolution.
Are there other people here from your organization? You are. Oh, the ice cream lady.
You're doing double times.
After the triple, actually.
Okay, let's get back on the schedule here. The schedule, next business is scheduled poll hearing dates for National View. What are we asking for here?
They have
Wow,
three different
14
locations.
polls. Wow.
Yeah, there's one that they're
14
doing a
polls.
lot for. The other is 3, and one street is just one replacement or one addition.
Okay, this is 14 new joint-owned poles on Wellington Street to reduce long spans. And then the second one is new stub pole on Horton Street. And the third one is 3 new solely owned poles on south side of Wellington under the transmission crossing.
Is there anyone here who would know?
Think that-
On the first request for the 14 installments, they had a very specific reason, and it was to avoid the long spans. But they don't really give a reason for the other 2, so I was just wondering why they're
That's
doing
what
that.
the
The hearing will be for, right?
Oh, they were gonna hash it
So
out?
this is
Okay.
just scheduling it, and
You're making
then,
me wait.
sorry.
Do
Well, we
have
need the abutters to come as well.
Do we have a proposed date?
Ideally, I'd like it to be a month from now, so I can,
Okay.
I'm waiting 2 weeks to notify abutters, put it in the paper.
All right, so what have you got for a date? What's a month?
2/28 or 3/7 would be the next.
So which
Would be a
one?
month.
228.
2:28 is fine.
2:20.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we, what time?
7:30, let's do it right at the top.
Right at the beginning? All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board set February 28th, 2018, at 7:30 PM for the requested hearing by Mass Electric / National Grid for the installation of 14 poles on Wellington Street, 1 pole on Horton Street, and 3 other poles solely owned on Wellington Street as requested.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation for new hires for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Good evening, my name is Ken Cheat, I'm the chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would like to read the letter that I presented to the board, and then I'll accept any questions that the board may have. I am pleased to recommend to the board Nicole Scarlison for the position of Office Manager for the Zoning Board of Appeals. With the assistance of Tom Pius, we interviewed all 6 applicants for this position. The final 2 candidates were interviewed by myself, Tom Pius, as well as Town Administrator Mallory Aristine. Aristine? Is that correct?
Aaron it's okay,
Steen?
it's a tough name.
Sorry about that.
We're used to
Mallory.
it with these long last
Yeah.
I'll get it wrong in the future again. We all agree that Nicole Scarlison, with her experience in municipal government and her education, made her a good fit for the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would like her to begin her work on February 5th, 2018. I thank you in advance for your consideration. I'll accept any questions. She has the Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Geology from Northeastern University. She worked for the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority for 8 years. She presently works for West Bridgewater in the town as an assistant analyst intern over there, and she is presently on the verge of getting her master's degree in public administration.
Wow.
So I think she's very well qualified for this position. We had some very good candidates. We narrowed it down to 2, and it was a joint recommendation that this person be appointed for this position.
Is her first name Nichole?
No, it's Nicole.
No H.
Is it CH?
No, you spelled it right. I actually have 2 questions. My first question is, was it a unanimous decision?
Yes.
Okay.
We did have a secret ballot. No, it was a unanimous decision.
How do you spell the last name, please?
Skylleson. My other question is, if she's appointed, she will be starting February 5th, 2018. Will there be someone here to show her the ropes? I know we have former office manager Rossi is still down there, but I know she's busy.
Yeah, she's going to be doing the training for her, so she'll be starting, Ross will be starting her full-time position on that same date for 30 hours. We haven't exactly decided what best hours for Nicole to start anyway for the training, because I know in the morning she gets very involved with the Board of Health. So it might be better to have her work later in the day so that Ross has the time to spend with her to do training. But I think she's a quick learner. I think she'll be right on board pretty quick.
Well, as you know, Chairman, I always take the recommendation. I know that you did your due diligence together, and I trust you. So if there are no further questions from my colleagues, I'm ready to vote.
Make a motion first.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion. I'm not being presumptuous over here. Yeah, exactly. I make a motion that we accept the recommendation to appoint Nicole Skyleson as the office manager for the Zoning Board of Appeals, effective February 5th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you
Nice
very much.
job. I also
Thank you.
commend you for working together on these things.
I know Tom has experience. I had experience in hiring in the past. Tom's had experience, and to get a new town administrator involved was very nice.
Thank you.
Thankful
Thank you for
for your help.
including me, and I'll just say
Interested in tree warden.
Okay, let's move on. Let's get to the appointment
That was
of
for Tommy's
Jessica
benefit.
Daly to the Land Use Committee. Are you Jessica?
Miss
You are.
Daly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Before you introduce yourself, I just wanted to publicly apologize. Your email went into the spam folder, and that resulted in an untimely response, but we
That's
appreciate
fine.
it, and I'm glad you're here tonight, and thank you.
So, you want to be on the land use committee?
Pardon?
You want to be on the land use committee?
Yes, please.
Brief and direct. She's gonna be great on that committee. Exactly, that's all you have to say.
Good luck.
It's a great committee. I used to chair that committee, it's a great committee.
Okay.
So,
So I want to get more involved in the town and the goings-on in the town. So I thought this would be a great place to start, and WAGs and the Friends of the Library. So those are the
you're getting
things
involved, wow.
that I'm
Yeah.
volunteering for, so.
Good for you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
We
but
appreciate
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Very, very much. We run on volunteerism, as you know. Most of the volunteers wear many hats. They're on more than one committee. So I really appreciate it, and I'm glad you're getting involved. And I hope more people will be watching tonight and see new faces and also want to get involved. New ideas is always a good thing, so I appreciate it very much.
You want a motion, something?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to approve Jessica Daly to the Land Use Committee.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
What discussion?
Discussion.
Since you mentioned that you are part of the Friends of the Library.
Well, I just emailed them, so I'm going to go to their first meeting in
Well,
March.
we just want you to know,
Yes.
we want Taste of Dayton in the fall. Just telling you up front.
I don't know what that is, but I'll.
Just say yes.
Food
we get it.
vendor fair.
Oh, okay.
Has nothing to do with land use, but you mentioned the Friends, so I'm just telling you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion,
Jack,
Oh.
could I ask a question? Sure. How many seats have you got now on that?
that's the last one.
That's the 5th, correct?
Just checking.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, where are we?
Item C.
Okay, we've done that.
Just head over to the town clerk's office and get sworn in before your first meeting.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah, I
And
guess
congratulations.
the last is the discussion of the Emergency Preparedness Committee and potential appointments. What do we got on that?
So originally, this item was to appoint Todd Pilling and Mr. Tom Pyers. You seem to be the star of our
I
meeting
know.
tonight. So,
Am I the last on the agenda? I don't mind waiting a little bit longer.
This is the
that's the last.
This is the last one.
I missed it.
Chairman. Speak freely.
Okay. Evening, everyone. I guess what brought this to this stage of discussion was I don't know where I heard it from. I think I heard it from the town administrator that an emergency preparedness committee had been appointed with 19 people on it.
It had just
which I found-
It had existed for a long time. We just changed.
Which I found a little bit excessive.
Cumbersome.
You think?
Tough to get a
As
meeting
far as
going.
a committee goes. And in further research, I guess a lot of the people in power weren't aware of how we've advanced in emergency preparedness on the public health side. So I'm going to give you a little, if you don't mind, a little bit of background. Dayton is one of 24 communities that belong to the Bristol County Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coalition. We've been involved with them since I've been involved with the town, going on 12 years in one way or another. The coalition meets on the third Tuesday of each month. We have people that attend from the Board of Health, Kevin Bernardo, Board of Health member, and Beth Collins, town nurse. So we have representation there. This is where our public health emergency preparedness funds come from. We had received the trailer behind the middle school that stores supplies. That was a $3,000 item that came from FEP money. We also received telephones at one time years ago, and received laptops not that long ago that I think the Board of Selectmen enjoyed having
We still owe you one.
for a while.
We'll get you back.
So that's how we're involved as a coalition. Locally, the emergency dispensing site, as everybody knows by now, is at the middle school. The goal that we have over there is to dispense medication to all the townspeople within 48 to 72 hours of an event. We're prepared to handle pandemics, chemical or biological attacks. We have 15 binders at least downstairs that cover every type of emergency you could imagine as far as a bioterrorism thing. The problem is that years ago, not that many years ago, when Selectman Menges was here, he was chairing a disaster committee. The disaster committee consisted pretty much of the same people that consists of the public health emergency preparedness group. We have, as a local group, we have quarterly, are you familiar with the incident command structure?
Yep, I did my NIMS
Oh,
training.
everybody did NIMS and ICS. Anyway, those of you familiar with NIMS and ICS, we have our structure in place. We've had it in place for years. We do have call-down drills for response time quarterly. We have set-up drills annually. At least that's the way it was, and we got one coming up February 21st. The shelter itself, normally in a bioterrorism or a pandemic, is not geared for sick people. We are geared, because it's not a sheltering situation at this point. We are geared for dispensing of medication, and depending on what the event is, then we have a binder for it. So you just pick out the right binder for the right reason. We also have plans in place for our shut-ins, our nursing homes, council on aging. So pretty much everybody's covered, and we're pretty up to snuff on what we're doing as far as the public health emergency preparedness. And let me say, when we do, we also have like a quarterly meeting with our coordinator, and when we invite people, I feel it important that the police chief, fire chief, highway superintendent, building commissioner, town nurse, animal control officer, and I'm sure there's one or two more, but I try to ensure that all those people are there, because most of those people are in the incident command structure within the town. The problem at the EDS, it also serves as a shelter for other emergencies, whether it be to an act of God or whether it be a man-made disaster. As we found out, we have 35 cots, which is a far cry from what we need. So, since the disaster committee sort of fell apart, and I guess the board felt the need for, to continue it, and that's where we're at right now. My feeling personally is that the same people that are on the public health emergency preparedness should also be on the other emergency preparedness, and I kind of would like to see those separated by calling it disaster emergency preparedness, maybe, or something like that. Different name. Well, we could name it something else. You know, but to have 19 people on it, nothing would ever get done.
Agreed.
So what I used to do, and I still suggest, and we're probably going to end up doing this pretty soon, Right now, the flu is running rapid within 49 or all of the 50 United States. And when we have something that's threatening the community, we will call usually, not probably, we will